everyone, it's Lucy from My Crazy Craft Life, and I'm here today with some cards from the January Flavor of the Month card kit from Scrapping for Less. I wasn't able to be part of the blog hop this month because of some crazy circumstances. I was supposed to go to Creativation and I was going to get my kit then, and I ended up having to stay home because my husband ended up needing surgery. Everything went well and he's fine, but I missed Creativation, so I didn't get my kit until after the blog hop. So I was really excited that I was able to get it and still create some cards for this design team post. So what I did was I am making a bunch of the cards. I'm actually making 4. I'm using the sketches that were part of the kit this month. And I stamped all of the images and I'm going to color all of them first. I did Copic coloring with all of these. On this first image with the skin tone, I ended up picking the wrong color when I was choosing for the colors for the skin tone. My kind of go-to colors is E00, E11, E13, and E15 for skin tone. I ended up grabbing the E18, which is pretty dark, as you can kind of see there. So what I ended up having to do was kind of go back over it with the E15 and have E11 be the highlight instead of the E00, because there was just way too much of a contrast there. But I still think it ended up turning out okay. This kit has some really adorable images in it. I'm going to just go through the collections really quick. Collection 1 was Coffee Time paper with Scrapping for Less, the Humming Along stamp set that Scrapping for Less made, Sheer Ribbon, Ephemeral from Scrapping for Less, Sequins Mix and by Scrapping for Less. Collection 2 has Love, Coffee and Donuts paper by Scrapping for Less, Newton's Donut stamp by Newton's Nook Designs, Wood Icons by Prima Marketing, Donut Character stickers by Sticko, and a Sequin Mix by Scrapping for Less. Collection 3 is Coffee and Friends paper by Scrapping for Less, Coffee Break Marcy stamp set by La La Land, Coffee Time stickers by Sticko, coffee beans that are actual real beans. And when I first heard that, I kind of thought, okay, that's interesting, what am I going to do with that? But then I did end up using them, and I thought it was kind of cute and gives kind of an interesting take on a card to be able to use something kind of out of the box. And then a Sequins Mix by Scrapping for Less. Collection 4 included Coffee Paper by Echo Park, Brew It Anya stamp set by The Greeting Farm, Cut Up Hearts by Echo Park, Enamel Dots by Echo Park, and the Sequin Mix from Scrapping for Less. Now I also have the Banana Split level, and what is also included with that, besides all of the 4 collections, is a Donut Worry embossing folder by Teresa, Cat's Eye ink pad in Chestnut Roan by Colorbox, Melting Snowman stamp set by Your Next Stamp that was exclusively made for Scrapping for Less, and then a coffee cup wood embellishment. The card stocks that you're going to be getting are Whipped Cream, Snow Cone, Cotton Candy, Jelly Bean Green, Lemon Drop, and a craft sheet. Those are all from My Favorite Things. And then you also will get 2 sheets of Nina 110 pound Classic Crest Smooth Solar White, and 4 A2 size white envelopes. So that's everything that's part of the Banana Split level Flavor of the Month card kit by Scrapping for Less. And every month those are all similar things. You get 4 collections and then kind of an extra collection with the Banana Split level. The card stock is always My Favorite Things, and then you get the 2 sheets of Nina 110 pound paper along with it, and then the 4 envelopes, 1 for each collection. So it's kind of a great kit that you get lots of different things. I personally like the kits because there's not too much of one thing. I get bored. I don't like to make a lot of the same things, but it also gives me a chance to experiment with a lot of things that I may not normally use and decide if I like them, and then I can, you know, use them again. But I also don't have to buy a ton of something so that I have a ton of something that I don't end up liking, or if I decide I really like it, then I can pick it up without having to worry about wasting my money. So as you can see, I did all of the coloring on all of the images first. I don't know if any of you have ever seen these, if you see that little keyring type thing over there, this has Copic. It's called Color of the Day. They're by Jennifer Dove. If you go to the website, it's justforfuncrafts.blogspot.com, and you can actually print out each one of these. I used my scan and cut after I printed them to cut them all out. I popped a hole in them with a hole punch, and then I put them on a ring. And if you don't right off the bat in your head know all of the different kind of colors to blend with for Copics, they're really great. So I actually I printed all of them off, but I made a key ring, or I made 2 key rings, one with all of the Copics and the colors that I actually have so that I can make those blends, and then another one's with ones that I don't have. And then it kind of also gave me a good idea as far as which Copics I may end up wanting to get, so that I can kind of create these other blends if I don't have something similar to it or something like that. So I just thought it was a really great tool to kind of have right next to you when you're looking for things. They also have, in the same shape, she kind of has title cards, so it has like hair and metals and colors, whether it's greens or pinks or whatever the different colors is, skin tones. So you can just kind of flip right to that area, have all your skin tones in one area, and say, okay, I want to make a skin tone this color. Or all your hair is in one area, so you can just pop over and say, I want to do blonde hair, or I want to do red hair, or brown hair. So I just thought that was a really great kind of tool to have next to you, especially, like I said, if you're newer to Copics and you just don't have the knowing of all of the different blends that you can do and how they end up coming out and which ones are best for which things. So like I said, that's just a little tip that I picked up when I found it. I just thought it was really great. So I'm going to finish up this coloring, and then what I end up doing is using my scan and cut to cut out all of the images. I really had fun with this kit, and like I said, I did use all 4 kits. I did not use the stamp or the embossing folder from the banana split level. I do want to go back and make something with those because I think they're really cute, but I just didn't. I wanted to use all the stamps because I thought all of these stamp sets were really cute. So I'm finishing up coloring there, and then there is the images that are cut out from the scan and cut. One thing I do want to say, you see me cutting a little bit there with kind of fussy cutting certain things. If you go over the line, basically what the scan and cut does is scan the image that's on the paper. So if you went over the lines with your coloring, it's going to go past the line to where your coloring ends. So that's kind of why sometimes I'll be cutting a little bit off of there, because I don't actually leave an edge. You can, that is an option on there to leave an edge, kind of like the white rim when you use die cuts, how it's on there. You can do the same thing with the scan and cut. I normally do not do that. This is my first card that I'm making, and then I'll just kind of jump into that. But back to the scan and cut. So what it does is it scans the images, and then it will cut out, like I said, around the outline. It does not cut out the insides, like the donut there at the top of the head and the inside of the donut. It will not cut that out. There are certain things you can do, but for me personally, I think it's easier just to get the X-Acto knife and cut out the center if I want it out of that particular image, than trying to do the steps for the scan and cut to do it. One of the ways you could do it is put a piece of acetate over it, kind of outline the area that you want cut, and then it can cut around that outline. But like I said, that gets into a lot more work than I'm trying to do. I like the scan and cut because it's easy and I can cut out multiple images, but there are some times where you may have to do a little bit more work with it. So this first card is with the hummingbird stamp set, the Humming Along stamp set by Scrapping for Less, and it comes with that cute coffee cup and the hummingbird, and then the sentiment on there. And the sentiment I use on there is "Coffee and you keep me humming along," and that is from the same stamp set. So when I was trying to figure out how I was going to put this together, I'm actually using sketch number 1 with kit number 1. And I just picked out my pieces, and when I was coloring these images, which I have a habit of doing a lot, I sit down, I stamp them, I start coloring them, and I don't look at the paper first to kind of get an idea of what type of color scheme to use, which sometimes can end up being an issue. This time it did not, because like the coffee cup, I painted pink, even though these are browns and blues and grays that are part of this paper. But it ended up working because I was able to use one of the cardstocks is pink, kind of a similar tone to it, and I was able to use that to kind of pick up the pink. I colored the hummingbird in the green, which was, I went back and forth, you'll see in a minute, to go back and forth with either a green card base or the pink card base, because I could have used that to pick up the green from the hummingbird as well. But I ended up using the pink because I thought that went better, and I thought the green was just a kind of a perfect little accent to go along with it. The other thing I also did was, so the circle and the sentiment strip, I used the Cat's Eye ink pad from Colorbox, and I used a blending brush that's a, let me see, it's a Distress, it's Tim Holtz blending brush, and I didn't exactly blend on it. I kind of, I don't know, I guess just kind of smushed at it, just to give it a little color in the background. So that brown is a good, it kind of matches with the tones that are in the pattern paper, but it also just gave it a little color and a little, I don't know, definition, I guess you might say. So these pieces I ended up cutting out for the 3 of them for the kind of the back panel of it. The first one is 1.5 inches. The middle piece is 2 3/4, and the last piece, the blue piece, is 1 inch long. So it's 1 inch by 4 inches. So all of them are 4 inches long. So that's the kind of the measurements on there, because I know that one doesn't have the measurements. So I was able to do that. I ended up, because there was so many layers on this card, I did not pop up any of these images. And also the ribbon I used just to, as part of it, and I thought that went really well with it. So that was the first card. The second card I'm doing with Kit 2 is the Newton's Nook. And this one I am, again, just following the sketch. And when I first started doing this, I thought the sketch had a few different pattern, like 3 different pattern papers, or actually 4 or 5 different pattern papers, because I thought all of those strips were there. But then as I was looking at it, I realized, which again, you can do whatever you want. If I wanted to do different colors for each kind of strip in that sketch, I certainly could have, but they do have the measurements on this one. So the first piece was for the bottom layer, I guess you want to say, of it was 4.25, so it's going to go across the entire width of the card, and then it was 4.5, so it's going to leave that inch or 1/2 inch on each side that will be the color of the background, or if you wanted to put another 1/2 inch strip across it. And then this kind of the second layer on the going from the bottom up is 4 1/4 by 1.75, and so that was that green polka dotted piece that I used. The sentiment strip is 2 inches by 1/2 inch, which I didn't do that. I did it a little bit different. I ended up cutting it down. And then the oval that is on there is 2.25 inches by 3 inches is what's on the sketch. That's not the size that I ended up using. The one that I had that would fit the Newton's stamped image was a little bit larger than that, so I wanted to make sure that he fit in there, so I used a larger one. And then I kind of did the same thing on this one with the Cat Box ink pad and the Distress brush, where I just kind of pushed on there to give it a little bit of dimension, and I did the same thing to the sentiment. And I also used the crocodile on the sentiment just to give it those rounded edges, because I thought that looked better with the oval. And then I had stamped out some images of the donuts that were also part of the stamp set, and colored those and stuck those on there as well. For this stamping for all of these images, I ended up using Hero Art's Intense Black, and it worked really well. I've been trying to use Memento was Tuxedo Black has always been my go-to, especially with Copics. But for this, it really just needs to be refilled, and I do have a refill, a refill jar, but I haven't refilled it because I'm being lazy, and the Hero Arts was sitting there. But I have to say I tried it and it's worked really well. I haven't had any problems with it bleeding or anything like that. So I know I go back and forth, and I've tried it before, and I don't know, for whatever reason I didn't like it then, but I used it this time and they seem to be working really well because I've used it with a few cards lately, and like I said, I haven't had any types of issues whatsoever. So this next one is going to be Sketch 3, and it is using Kit 4, and this is with the Greeting Farms Brew It On a stamp. And one of the things, I am not a big coffee drinker. I shouldn't say I'm not a big coffee. I don't drink coffee at all. I don't like coffee. The taste is gross. I think it's nasty. But I do like, I know everybody, like, I know you can't say everybody, but there's such a huge population of coffee drinkers and that love that. And so when I get these kind of stamp sets, even though I don't necessarily like them, I do like to make them for my friends or family that I know are big coffee drinkers. Or sometimes what I'll actually do is just create something. I'll cut sentiment stamps up and use different parts of them to kind of create my own sentiment to make it seem more like something I would say or do. I do like hot chocolate, so I will go to a Starbucks on occasion and get myself a hot chocolate. So it's not that I can't go and do that type of thing because I don't drink coffee, but I certainly, like I said, can figure out other things to do with the coffee sentiments and stuff, even though I'm not a big coffee drinker. And this donut one is just adorable. I do love the Newton's Nook donut stamp set and how cute that one is. So with this one, again, I just followed the pattern for it. I cut some pieces. My background panel is the 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then there is a smaller panel that is 2 3/4 inches by about 5 inches, and then that's kind of sitting in the background. And then the banners one is about 4.5 inches long, and then the circle is about almost 2-inch circle. And then that was part of the ephemera that was in there that I put her on. And the sentiment I used on this one was, it's good. And then I used some of the enamel dots to finish that one up. Now this final card is Sketch 4, and it's Kit 3 using the Coffee Break Marcy stamp by La La Land. And again, I just took my largest stitch circle that I had and cut it in half, and that's how I kind of created that. And then there's a background piece on it that I just cut the standard 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. I made a strip. I'm not entirely sure what that was in the back of that kind of panel that was there, but I just cut a strip that was 3/4 of an inch by 4 inches and popped that in the background there. And then I used a piece of scrap paper that I had that was about 3 inches long and 2 inches wide for the panel, and then I used my crocodile to end up making those edges curved. And then again, I used the cat's eye stamp pad or ink pad and the blending brush to give that some dimension on the background there. And then I just kind of pieced everything together. And then for the sentiment, I did the same thing as far as using the crocodile to kind of make that an oval shape. And it says, "Let's do coffee." Now this is the one that I ended up using the coffee beans on. Like I said, when I was first looking at them and thinking like, what the heck am I going to do with these things? But then I was like, you know what? Let's figure it out and put it on there. And then I thought it would be super cute for somebody who really does enjoy coffee, because when they open it, it will smell like coffee as well. So that was kind of a cool idea to be able to use. So that's it. Those are all my cards. I hope you enjoyed it. Everybody take care.